Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this great event, the launch of Environmental Justice and Climate Impact Litigation Moot competition that is being launched in Nigeria for the first time, and this is an event of its kind piloted here in Nigeria by the International Working Group and Just Clean Up in partnership with consulting partners including NULAI Nigeria, Gender Inclusive Climate Change Governance, University of Bradford, the United Kingdom, and Aberystwyth University, United Kingdom, and the HEDA Resource Group. We want to welcome you all to this event and happy that you could join us. On behalf of the team, the EJCIL team, I say welcome and I hope you have a pleasant evening with us. Without wasting much time, I would like to call on the president of NULAI Nigeria to just share brief welcome remarks with everybody. Thank you.
Good evening and good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are, distinguished guests, partners, colleagues, and brilliant students if you are online. It's both an honor and privilege to deliver these remarks at the launch of the Environmental Justice and Climate Impact Litigation Moot Court competition, an initiative that speaks powerfully to our shared commitment to justice, sustainability, and the future of legal education in Nigeria. Let me begin by commending the network of university legal aid institutions, NULAI Nigeria, the International Working Group on Petroleum, Pollution, and Just Transition in the Niger Delta, and their partners, GENCGOV and the University of Bradford and University of Aberystwyth, for this timely and visionary collaboration. This competition could not have come at a more critical moment. Around the world and here in Nigeria, the intersection of law, environment, and human rights has become one of the defining arenas for justice in the 21st century. Communities losing their homes to rising seas, farmlands are poisoned by extractive activities, air and water pollution erode not only our environment, but the dignity of human life itself. These are not distant issues, they are our reality. The theme of this year's competition, historical wrongs and contemporary remedies, challenges us to confront our past while reimagining our future. It calls us to question who bears the cost of environmental harm. How can the law serve as both a shield for the vulnerable and a tool for accountability? And how can young legal minds like those participating in this competition become architects of the just transition we urgently need? This moot court competition represents much more than an academic exercise. It is a training ground for the next generation of environmental advocates. By simulating real-world courtroom scenarios, and not only sharpening the advocacy and constitutional questions of our time, and how should corporations be held accountable for pollution and displacement? What duties do governments owe to their citizens under our constitution and international law? And how can the rights of women, children, and communities be safeguarded in the face of ecological harm? Through this competition, participants will explore the duty of care in international environmental law, the provisions of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the constitutional right to a healthy environment, all within a fictional case that mirrors real challenges faced by communities in Nigeria's coastal and oil-producing regions. But beyond the legal argument, this initiative represents something even more profound. a bridge between law and lived experience. It brings the classroom closer to the courtroom and the courtroom closer to the communities whose voices must be heard. Let us also recognize the boldness of NULAI and its partners in filling a long-standing gap in legal education. For too long, environmental and climate justice have been absent from our law school curricula. Yet these are the very issues shaping global discourse, from United Nations to local courts. By introducing the competition, we are preparing students not only to argue cases, but to shape policies, influence governance, and uphold the principle that justice must extend to the planet itself. To our students, if they are here, those who will participate, this is your opportunity to demonstrate that law is not static. It evolves with society's needs. You are stepping into the role of future advocates, judges, and policymakers who will define law or how Nigeria's response to the climate crisis and environmental degradation. Approach this challenge with curiosity, courage, and compassion. To organizers and our partners, your vision is planting seeds that will grow into stronger institutions and a more sustainable justice system. The work we begin today will echo far beyond this competition into classrooms, courtrooms, and communities across our nation. Let me leave you with these thoughts. Environmental justice is not just about protecting nature. It's about protecting people. It's about ensuring that the rights of future generations are not traded for the convenience of the present. And it is about using the law, our most powerful instrument of equity, to heal both our land and our humanity. So I congratulate all of us, especially the NULAI executive team that's organizing and those sponsoring and participating. May this competition inspire lasting change and mark a new chapter in Nigeria's pursuit of environmental and climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for this remarks. That is captures the relevance of this competition for now and for the future. And it is very, very important that we begin to open our students and the legal profession to the gaps and challenges and opportunity in environmental and climate justice. Okay, so while we wait for Prof, I want to also appreciate all our preliminary judges. I've already seen some already in the participants. Thank you for joining and making our time to join. You're welcome. I now want to call on Dr. Pedi Obani, GENCGOV representative and professor, School of Law, University of Bradford, a member of EJCIL team, to discuss the relevance of climate justice to Nigeria in the next few minutes. Thank you, Dr. Pedi.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Really delighted to be here. I'm grateful to the NULAI team and the International Working Group, and indeed all the partners who have come together to make this happen today. And very grateful to our judges, as well as the students, the schools, everyone who's today a part of this conversation. I think we're doing something really remarkable. As Professor Juku said, this is the first of hopefully many more to come. And it reminds me of when I first started doing my PhD on the right to sanitation. One of the first few conversations I had with a senior colleague, and the question was, what is the right to sanitation? Is that even a thing? But not too long after I started my PhD, and it became a household thing to talk about the right to sanitation. And in very similar ways, we haven't really had climate justice or environmental justice mooting as a part of our mooting culture in Nigeria, and indeed in very many other neighboring countries as well. So we're doing something that I think has a lot of potential for impact, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be doing this with all of you. I have a few things I would have liked to share. I had some slides prepared, but I'm not able to share them, which is okay. I'll just talk to them anyway. And over the next few minutes, just to share my thoughts on the relevance of climate justice to Nigeria.
Sorry, can you give her the...
Yeah, Hetty, you have access to share now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll just share a few thoughts on the relevance of climate justice to Nigeria. As has already been mentioned, I also lead a project hosted by the University of Bradford that's focused on gender-inclusive climate change governance, and it's funded by the UK Research and Innovation. This project covers Nigeria, but also other countries, including Kenya, South Africa, and we're doing a bit of the work in the UK as well. Now, within the context of today's conversation, and because I know that there might be some of the students participating in the moot here, I thought it would be important to just explore our perspectives on what climate justice means. Now, thinking about it, as Professor Juku mentioned, climate change, climate justice, and indeed climate action to be effective needs to go beyond the environment. And we need to be thinking about people, we need to be thinking about institutional structures, and we need to be thinking about how all of this comes together to address climate change in a way that is delivering positive outcomes for various individuals, various groups, but also various aspects of the system, both natural systems and human systems. So within that context, climate justice is about understanding the responsibility, and this means the responsibility of people who have been involved in historical pollution, but also understanding that very often those who have contributed the least to the problems that we currently experience in the form of climate change continue to bear most of the adverse impacts. And so this could be local communities that have been host to oil and gas production activities, but also the pollution. This could be children who haven't been part of that generation and are now born into an environment that is deeply polluted. This could be people whose livelihoods are lost because of degradation to the environment and lack of remediation. So the climate justice, we first have to understand that idea of the responsibilities, and also to understand that even as the narrative keeps changing, because these days it's a bit difficult to even put a handle on what we mean by climate change, climate action, and responsibility, because we've moved away from common but differentiated responsibility based on people's capabilities to a system where increasingly the burden is being put on everybody, almost as if everybody has contributed in the same way to the problems that we're currently experiencing. But I think this conversation around climate justice, this moot around environmental justice, is an opportunity for us to pause and rethink the ways in which we assign responsibility for climate change and the problems that we're currently experiencing. And very similarly or closely related to that is also the need for us to pause and recognize other forms of knowledge, other forms of knowing, other values and other norms that are held deeply by affected populations. This means, for instance, that the ways we're valuing climate harm needs to take into account not only economic losses, but also things like cultural losses, things like loss of heritage, loss of identity, and the ways in which we address those losses are also fundamental to achieving climate justice. And so we need to think beyond climate justice or climate action as just mitigation or reducing emissions, but think about it as also remediating and recognizing other ways of knowing, other ways of being that are deeply held and entrenched by affected populations. It's also important for us to think about the distributive elements of climate justice. And so this is about ensuring that not only the benefits of climate action, but also the costs of it are equitably allocated. And of course, this would mean taking into account the historical pollution, historical harms, and indeed historical benefits as well that have come from the sector. And it's also about the procedural elements. So this question of who is involved in the decision making, who has a voice in those conversations, who has voice in the governance process. And this is really important because a lot of the times, just the structures of governance just have a way of excluding lots of populations, especially indigenous communities who may not thrive in the language that is being spoken, who may not thrive in the spaces where these conversations are being had. And so I think part of this competition is a reminder to our law clinics, to our law graduates, to our law students, to our law teachers, the responsibilities which all of us hold as people who are in the spaces where these conversations are being had, to make the spaces more accommodating and more accessible so that there can be a diversity of voices and experiences reflected in decision-making systems and structures and processes. So for climate justice to be really achieved, we need to think very critically about the responsibility dimension, the recognition dimension, distributive elements, but also the procedural elements. And things like litigation, climate litigation also feed into that procedural element, but of course it goes beyond that. Now, thinking about Nigeria's climate context, I think it's also important that we reflect on what is currently happening, because even though, I mean, there's some awareness around climate change, but there's a lot more that can be done. I think one thing that remains uncontested is that the weather patterns are changing. A lot of people in Nigeria today would complain about rising temperatures. There have been very many severe cases of flooding leading to destruction of lives and properties, loss of lives, livelihoods, and other forms of damage to people and communities. We have communities experiencing coastal erosion, desertification, very many environmental problems being exacerbated as a result of extreme conditions which are very easily attributable to climate change. Also, the fact that beyond the weather itself and the environmental impacts, there are wider complications or challenges that this then poses for other sectors. So for instance, if you think about agriculture, food security, health outcomes, energy security, livelihoods, it's all linked to climate change in one form or the other. And of course, we also have regional variation. So the experiences of people in northern Nigeria are very different from the experience of people in the Niger Delta, as an example. But one thing remains that in each of these spaces, these experiences are reflecting the adverse impacts of climate change on very often the most vulnerable, marginalized populations. And so this mooting competition is an opportunity for us to really reflect on all of these variations, all of these nuances in the way that we unpack the mooting problem, but also in the way that we design the briefs and we design the requests for relief from the courts at each stage of the competition, and would invite everyone involved to just take these into account. Now, the research that I'm involved with, which is the one on gender inclusive climate change governance, we look specifically at gender as a lens into climate justice. And when we speak about gender, we're looking especially at the experiences of women in these various countries. One of the things we found as an example is that there's an increasing recognition of the gender dimensions of climate change. And so very many laws and policies on climate change are actually highlighting women or women's rights or women's issues or gender equality as part of the objectives or as something that needs to be taken into account in the design of governance frameworks for climate change. But having said that, and as the graphs show you, there's an increase in recognition, but that isn't necessarily translating into meaningful outcomes for women in terms of closing the gaps or closing the power differentials between women and men in the climate governance process. And so this is also something for us to reflect on for everyone who will be involved in this mooting. The fact that we're looking at laws, policies as starting points, but interrogating what they really mean and the ways in which they impact on various segments of the population. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing for the law to have a provision, but it's another thing for that provision to translate into meaningful positive outcomes for the most vulnerable in the society. And so these are some of the issues we would like for people to consider. Now, beyond the legal aspects of it, there's an economic aspect of it. So in the gender research that we do, for instance, we know that there is a cost for involving women in the governance process, and that when we do not do this, there is also a cost. And sometimes this translates into, for instance, women and children being more likely than men to die during disasters. This also translates into women holding less than 25% of decision-making positions in national climate change bodies worldwide. And so there's a real cost to it. And as we look through the mooting problem, as we assess what the problems are on the ground, and as we propose solutions to these problems, we need to be mindful of these multi-dimensional aspects of it, the economic aspect, the social aspects, in addition to the environmental aspects as well. Now, in the mooting problem, we've highlighted some of the dimensions in terms of legal and policy dimensions, but just as a reminder that we will be inviting everyone involved to explore international law, regional law, national laws, and policies that are relevant to the climate governance process, and indeed the related institutions as well. And so some examples would be the Paris Agreements, the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy, the Climate Change Act for Nigeria, the Nationally Determined Contributions. And just to reiterate again that even in all of these provisions, there is room for review, there is room for reform, there is room for improvement. And this moot provides us an opportunity to explore each of these provisions within the context of our reality in Nigeria and in the Niger Delta region, and propose ways of improving the outcomes. And we're hoping that this is a starting point to even more work within the law clinics, where these conversations can lead to other areas of work as well. Some of the challenges which we already identify and which we think will also affect the outcomes from this whole process would be things like policy incoherence in the climate governance process. So if you look at our institutional processes, if you look at our legal frameworks and our policy provisions, there is sometimes incoherence which affects the effectiveness of outcomes. We also find that there's fragmented governance, there's underfunding, there's low public awareness. But we're hoping that through this mooting competition, some of these challenges will start to see some headway towards positive outcomes. And some of those pathways which we've identified are education. And so Professor Juko has mentioned climate education, for instance. That's one of the hallmarks of the work that we do. There's the advocacy element, and there's also the policy engagement element. And we're hoping that everyone in the room will contribute in one way or the other to strengthen all of these pathways to inclusive climate change governance. Thank you very much, and looking forward to the interactions with everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Pedi. I want to thank you very much for the presentation. She has really given us a broad overview of issues around climate change, opportunities, gaps that exist, and how they're all interconnected, and the need for more education about it so that we have more coherent strategies in addressing, but more importantly, about how climate justice affects our community, affects real life, and especially the most vulnerable. This pilot edition of the Moot competition, which is being initiated by the International Working Group and Just Clean Up, is really, we're basing it on the Niger Delta reports on Bayelsa State Oil and Gas Commission, and we're trying to bring out the real issues of what has happened within our environment in Niger Delta, based on real facts, and being able to allow the students to connect what has happened in the community, what kind of accountability are we looking at. So to help us go into that report and to make us understand the foundation for this Moot competition is Professor GENCGOV. She is a member of the International Working Group and Just Clean Up. She's also the Professor of Environmental and Energy Law and Head of Department of Law and Criminology at Aberystwyth University of the United Kingdom. Prof, you're welcome. I think, okay, I see, yeah.
Right, yeah, hello everyone. Sorry, I've been having some slight technical issues. I think I'm still having them. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. I think as both Odi, Professor Juku, and Pedi has said, it's really exciting to be part of something that's really innovative and something that we believe is essential for where we are in okay, all right, my name is changed, Professor Messe, for where we are as a country. Now, as Odi said, my name is Ngobo Emesa. I'm a professor of energy and environmental law at the University of Aberystwyth in the UK. And for several years, decades, I've been working around the issues of oil pollution in the Niger Delta. But also, of course, as we know, the issues have progressed and we've gone beyond extractive accountability for extraction to issues not just about environmental justice, but climate justice. And in the context of Nigeria, those are really live issues. Live issues in the sense that it links very directly to our political economy, but also to a range of issues that are significant in the context of environmental justice. And I think Teddy went through some of the really key questions that arise from climate change and how that impacts across the board. So in 2019, so back to how this all started, I did have a presentation, but for some reason, I am not able to upload it at all. So I will just speak to it and if possible, share at a later date. But in 2019, I was part of a commission that was established by the Bayelsa state government under then Governor Seriake Dixon, called the Bayelsa State Oil and Environmental Commission. And our mandate was to try and explore the issue, the question of oil pollution in Bayelsa State specifically, and to come up with some recommendations for how those may be addressed. Now, of course, we understand as lawyers that oil, as currently constituted in our constitution, is under the exclusive jurisdiction of the federal government. However, we also know that environmental concerns are on the concurrent list and that national state governments do have a scope for addressing environmental concerns. And as we went into executing our mandate, we undertook a number of different activities. First and foremost, we ensure that we try to understand the question, the issue as it relates to Bayelsa State, not just from the point of view of what's been written, but we had evidence sessions where we went to every single local government area in Bayelsa State. We did evidence gathering sessions in the remotest parts. We went down the creeks on the waters. We went to see the mangroves ourselves. But importantly, we spoke to the individuals who were impacted by oil pollution. And at the end of that process, we started in 2019, we gathered evidence, but we also did some scientific reports, scientific studies, sorry, some of which has been started by the government around toxicology reports, but we also, on our own, decided that we wanted to do some analysis of the impact of oil on the people of the Niger Delta, and particularly in Bayelsa State. So we did some blood reports, which were analyzed externally outside of Nigeria because we wanted to be sure that they were really robust and that went through a proper peer review process. And in 2023, May of 2023, we published our report. And that report, the Bayelsa State Oil and Environmental Commission report, which we were entitled Genocide, specifically because that is what the evidence that we came up with, that was what the evidence that we accumulated told us, that what was happening within Bayelsa State, which was emblematic of the Niger Delta as a whole, as far as we were concerned, was an environmental genocide. And that just because it was happening incrementally, just because it perhaps may not be as visible as what in normal human rights context will be classified as ecocide or genocide, did not make it something that was not worthy of that name. And we did that very, very decided. It was something we debated amongst ourselves, and we did not just want to be provocative. We really were convinced that what our evidence showed us was really about the systematic, if you like, annihilation of the people who exist there. And why did we say that? We said that because some of the data that, and this is where I wish I had the slides that I had prepared, that some of the data that we were able to come up showed that the amount of oil spills that had happened in Bayelsa State alone were several hundred times that of what had happened in a place like Europe. We found that something like the Macondo spill, which billions of dollars have been spent to try and remediate, again, was only a fraction of what had happened in Bayelsa. That for every Bayelsan citizen, there was at least 1.5 barrel of oil spilled on their behalf. That some toxins in the waters, some lead and the like, were sometimes about 1,000 plus times more than the WHO recommended guidelines for water. So in so many ways, those were problematic, but just also in just very real terms, we found, for instance, that every of the people that we tested their blood for indicated very clearly that they had toxins in their blood systems, and that there was a very direct correlation between the oil industry's activities and potentially the life expectancy of people in Bayelsa. Also, just looking at the data from Nigeria, it was very clear that the life expectancy in Bayelsa was less than most other parts of the country, that cancer rates in Bayelsa were the highest in the country, and so on. We had evidence both from medical, from the NMA, as well as from communities, of children being born with umbilical cords that will not close. And therefore, there was another study that said that about a third of children were born in some of these areas, were still born, again, because of some of the contaminants in the systems. But we also found there a lot of people talking about things like they call strange diseases because it was just inexplicable. So having looked at the evidence that was before us and looking at the scale of harm and looking at some of the provisions in the ICC and the like, we said that if this had happened with guns blazing, the world would have paid attention. And therefore, as far as we could tell, that especially because of some of the discussions around an ecocide section of the ICC, that this was an environmental genocide. And we called it the cost of big oil in Bayelsa. However, soon after the report, which was launched, as we all know, there have been key developments in the sector, part of which is the sale of assets, which I think sometimes is incorrectly called divestment in reports, by the oil majors, one of which fell through recently, simply because the company to which the divestment was happening actually did not have the financial wherewithal to see that through. We also know that Shell has also divested as of this year, and that they've divested to Renaissance, a company that Shell borrowed 75% of the cost of buying over the company too, and everything else remains the same but in name. And that was after NUPRIC had actually said the year before that the process for the divestment had not, was not in accordance with the guidance that was already set up under its regulations. So in so many ways, it raises significant concerns or issues around the legality of asset sale in Nigeria. But more importantly, the bigger question is around liability for historical pollution, because what asset sale in Nigeria, as it is currently constituted, means that we do not understand what scope there is for remediating what is a devastated environment. But also importantly, who will be responsible for that remediation. We also know that under the PIA, there are provisions now around decommissioning, and that there is historical pollution in places like Oloibiri or Tuobagi, where wells that have been abandoned have not been decommissioned, and there is no scope for understanding what the implications for that are under the current asset sales agreement, because a lot of it is shrouded in secrecy. So we know that there are litigations ongoing around those, one by HEDA, another by a king in Bayelsa State. But I think out of all of that, what the IWG is focused on doing is ensuring that we have a deep understanding of these issues from a Nigerian perspective, and that the concerns, the issues that we raise are not just about what we write in news, in journal articles or in reports, but that in our law schools, these are questions that are being discussed, but importantly, that the next crop of lawyers that are coming into the scene understand the key issues here, and that are able to engage with them from a legal perspective, not a political perspective, not a journalistic perspective, but from a legal perspective, to say, what is the law in this area? What are the protections under our system, constitution and other laws? What are the opportunities there? Are they being implemented? Who has liability and who doesn't? And so that was why the IWG, which I lead the law and justice section of, decided that we wanted to launch together with our partners this competition that is very much focused at a very specialist area of law, but also that is at the fulcrum of the Nigerian question. And because it has implications beyond oil, it has implications beyond Bayelsa, it has implications for all areas of Nigeria where devastation occurs as a result of extraction. And that ultimately includes not just oil extraction, but also minerals extraction and other manufacturing operations that are done in a manner that devastates environments, creates a whole subset of victims, and brings into question questions around access to justice for those victims. We are very pleased to have the support and to be able to partner this initiative with a number of key partners in the sector. So when I first started thinking about this issue and sort of thinking this is something I would like to do, and how do we get to implement this in Nigeria as IWG, because of course we operate outside of Nigeria, I was able to thankfully partner and discuss with PEDI, with Audi from NULAI, and we took it on from there. But since then, we've also had significant partners who operate in this space, both in Nigeria and externally, endorsing and partnering with us on this program. So we have, for instance, not just GENCGOV and NULAI, but we also have HEDA, which has been involved in litigation in this space in Nigeria. We have LEAD, which is one of the key international global environmental justice law firms, and currently litigating a number of cases before the UK High Courts. For some of us who may be interested in that area, we may have heard about cases like Bile or Pabi, Vedanta. LEAD has been involved in that, and they've also given their name to this partnership. So in so many ways, this is not, as I said, this is not just about the Niger Delta. This is not just about Bayelsa. This is really about the future of environmental justice and climate justice in the context of Nigeria. Because ultimately, while we start from the point of view of oil pollution, the discourse has moved on. This discourse has moved on to just transition. So when I talk about asset sale, for instance, in Nigeria, part of the reason why it is problematic that this is framed in the context of the divestment is that in some quarters that can be seen as a positive, in the sense that the industry is divesting from fossil fuels and moving on theoretically to cleaner forms of energy. But we know that that cannot be further from the truth, in the sense that the assets sale in Nigeria is just asset sale from onshore pollution, from onshore facilities, and that there's new investments and further investments going on offshore. And so the question around how we frame just transition in the context of climate justice, the question around how we frame responsibility of states in that wider discourse, but also the place of the Nigerian Constitution, the African Charter of People and Human Rights, the PIA, all comes into question as we try to unpack these issues from a legal perspective. And I think it's critical that the next generation of lawyers who are going to be left with these questions and challenges, because let's face it, some of us, we're kind of getting to the end of our careers in this space. But the next generation of young lawyers who will be left with these questions, both at a national, but also sometimes regional and global levels, I think it's critical that they become really conversant with the discourses here and are prepared to be able to take on these challenges going forward. So I think I've spoken for quite a bit of time. I think all that remains for me to say again, AWG, which is the International Working Group of Environmental Justice in the Niger Delta, is really pleased to be launching this initiative, the EJICL, together with our partners. We're grateful for all your contributions and your support. And I'm very much looking forward to this the competition starting, seeing the really great ideas that our young people will come up with, and hopefully coming together sometime in March next year to the semifinals and finals, where we can have a really, really intellectually stimulating mood that will engage with issues about our law, but beyond as well. So once again, thank you very, very much. Thank you, Odi. Thank you, Pedi. Thank you, Professor Ojukwu. Thank you, Professor Yusuf, and everybody else who's partnered with us in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for giving us the in-depth of overview of the research findings, the objective, and hopefully how we take this forward in achieving some tangible outcomes, not just with the report only, but making the report a living document that can be interrogated and also that can come up with newer approaches and ideas for advocacy and more push to a just transition. We're supposed to take some goodwill remarks from some of our special guests. As I see them, I'll call them on. But I want to let other participants, if you have a question and answer questions, you can use the Q&A to post some questions. We are soon coming to question session and comments and feedback sessions. You can also put comments. When we get to that time, we might be able to take a few people to actually say something or make comments and give feedback, but you can also use these tools. I don't want to take too much time in talking about the moot competition. I think Pedi and Prof has also gone into giving a little bit more details about that. But essentially, we know that we want our students through the case scenario that will be open, through everything that they will go through, is really to help support our law students explore environmental constitutionalism, access to environmental justice, the rights of communities impacted by climate change, corporate environmental responsibility, international climate obligation, and their relevance to national laws. It's also an avenue to open our students to entirely field that somehow is an area that most people are not thinking about engaging as a career option. NULAI just concluded the environment African CLE colloquium, and some students that were there were sections on setting up, establishing climate justice law clinics, and students were exploring different ways they can engage in this area. both as students and when they graduate. So this opens our students up to plug in certain legal capacity gaps as they graduate as lawyers. Prof. Inobo has also talked about the organization that are partnering with us, so I won't really go into much details about that. So the competition is open to undergraduate law students in Nigeria. This pilot is happening in Nigeria. Who knows, the next day will expand and reach Africa. But this pilot, we are piloting it in Nigeria, and undergraduate law students are welcome to participate. And we have, we're today officially it will launch, will open up registration, the case scenario, the criteria, everything will be found on the website, which will be shared to everybody here. And we have our competition guideline and timeline, open registration today, and that interest to participate will close by November 25th. Then we'll get on to submission of memorials. The deadline is January 6th. And then by the February, we'll have our preliminary rounds, which will hold online. After the preliminary round, we will choose our semi-finalist, and the semi-finalist and the finals will hold in person at the location that we will communicate to everybody soon. So that is the timeline that we have. All things being equal, we intend to follow that timeline to do this competition. In between the competition, we'll have different maybe info sections for our law clinics and our law faculties and participants to clear up any questions that they may have. We'll have a dedicated EJC email that can receive all inquiries and will respond to you immediately. Now, also importantly, as part of this process, there is a group of people that are very, very important to this process. And these are people who have graciously volunteered their time to serve as our preliminary judges. So I'm going to, so bear with me, I'm going to, most of them are here with us. So if I call your name and you're here, you can just raise your hand, and if possible, on your video so that people can see your face. But we have really about, we have right now 12, yes, 12 judges that had confirmed their availability to, sit as a panelist during the preliminary rounds that will be held online by Zoom. So in no particular order, we have Barrister Chima William. Don't know if he's around, raise your hand and show your video to the audience if you're here. We also have Dr. Egosa Ehato. So I beg your pardon, I'm trying my best to pronounce the names. Then we have, just raise your hand, show your video, thank you. We have Professor Uzu Azo Etime. We also have, we do have Professor Pereowe Sube. And we have Dr. Kim Boa. We have Dr. Misan Afinotan. And we have Dr. Menes Muzan. We also have Dr. Azubike Smith. And we have Abi Aberu. We also have Professor Morocco Clark. And Repitan. Yes, Dr. Repitan Okupon. Yes. And these are our judges for the preliminary round who have graciously, volunteered their time for this. They are all experts within the environmental law and climate justice arena. So they were going to bring a lot of expertise there. This is providing us bringing together in one place a pool of experts that, is something that is novel, who are able to provide our students the best of this competition. So use your icon and clap. And next, we'll move on to our questions, comments, and feedback. If you have a question or comment or feedback, if you can raise your hand. Our judging panel would like to hear from you as well. Okay, I have Abiodun.
Oh, good evening. I apologize. I didn't realize my hand was still up. It's an honor to be here.
Okay. Any other person who has comments and feedback or questions? Our students, any student here, faculty that may have questions. Question for Prof. Professor Morocco Clark, hand is up. Please grant her, unmute her. Thank you. Prof.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Prof.
Yes. Good evening. I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited about the prospects of this new endeavor. I'm not sure what's going on with my video, but I put the camera on. The question I have is, I believe this competition is open to all Nigerian law students. And I would like to know, is it the individual students that are going to apply, or is it going to be per faculty, and then the faculty raises a team to do that, to take part in the moot trial?
Okay, to quickly answer the open call for registration. So it's registering on behalf of the faculty, and so it's the faculty that will register. So we understand in some faculty it might be led by LawSan, it might be led by law clinic, or however the faculty is organized, but the indication of interest is faculty. So somebody will be representative to make that initial registration. During submission of memorials, by then they've had enough time to pick their team, and they will submit the particulars of the team members that will be doing the competition. Thank you.
How many team members?
I think maximum of 2 or 3 team members, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, welcome. Prof, your hand, Prof. Ngogo, your hand is up. Did you raise your hand?
Yes, if there is a space for me to say 1 or 2 things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't see any other hand raised for now.
Yeah, okay. So, just following up from the question from Professor Morocco Clark, and hello, nice to have you here, and thanks for supporting this initiative, is that what we are hoping, this is a pilot, it is a start, but already the kinds of partners that we've gotten on board, both nationally and internationally, speaks to what I think potentially is going to be a really great competition. And as Odi said, that our expectation is that ultimately this will become an annual event that will spread beyond our shores. Because the issues that we talk about are not unique to us in Nigeria. And I think cross-fertilization of ideas for our students who are going to be the lawyers of tomorrow is really, really, really important. So to that extent, I think for our colleagues here who are from Nigerian universities, whatever you can do to please support this initiative. I know that NULAI is working really hard with all of the universities, but yeah, it's something that we hope that students who are engaged in this area or interested in this area can participate in, and hopefully going forward, will be beneficial to them as a result of this experience as well. I think our panelists also indicate that. And Audie doesn't know this yet, but I did manage to secure one of the partners in Lee Day. He has agreed to be part of the panelists for one of our preliminaries as well. So students, I think, are going to get a lot of really great experience participating in this. Kind of just wanted to say that as part of when we think about this and when we talk to our students, those of us who are in law schools, for why this is something that they need to be part of. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments or feedback? Is there anything anybody wants to tell us to take into consideration? As Prof has said, this is a pilot, and we are open to all the suggestions as we work. I see Aliyu Musa's hand up. Okay, Aliyu Musa can go, then Egosa, then back to Professor Clark again. So, yeah, Aliyu, go.
Okay,
Thank
good evening. Yeah, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Aliyu.
Okay, good evening, and thank you so much, NULAI, for this opportunity, and thank you for putting together this competition. I am sure it's something that will open our minds to a lot of opportunities abound in this very critical area. So, first of all, I have dropped my question already, though, but for calling me up, let me just read it out. My concern is that is NULAI and its partners providing any logistics support to clinicians that are probably traveling for the competition? I mean, clinicians that are not within Bayelsa State. If peradventure they qualify for the semis and the finals, that's one. And secondly, from the list of the judges given for the preliminary session, for the preliminary rounds, this is actually not a diverse one. So I humbly request and suggest to NULAI that we get a way to make the list a very diverse and richer, by diversity. And finally, I am humbly requesting on behalf of almost all the participants here that please, Prof. Ngobu, I hope I pronounced the name proper, that Prof should share some of this, the research data that she gave here. I believe it will be very helpful for us. It will help us in navigating our way through this critical area. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Aliyu, for the question. Let me answer logistics. So like I said, the preliminary rounds will be online. So it's Zoom. For the semi-finals and finals, the competition will provide logistics support to the qualified schools. And yes, the competition is open to all schools in Nigeria. As we said, while this pilot is based on the Bayelsa State report, the issues around the environmental justice of extractive industry is a learning ground for everybody, because we see that extraction is happening now all over Nigeria and it's causing a lot of other issues as well. So yes, it's opens all our schools to issues around oil and gas, but also most importantly to environmental and climate justice. And we take into advisement your advice on more diversity to the panel. Thank you. So we go, Egosa, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to the organizers for the opportunity. Just a few sort of clarification I wanted to ask. In terms, is there any prize for the students? What are the students going to benefit apart from just attending? So I didn't hear any mention of prize or award that's going to be given to the students. So what is the first prize, second prize? That was one. And two, in terms of the processes, how many stages do you have in mind? How many universities do you have in mind? Is it like every single Nigerian university that applies for it? Is it going to be 100 university, 50? Is there a cap? And how many stages, from preliminary stages to the final, how many stages do you have? So that we have like a template of what to expect. And that's just my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, all the information is also available on this website. I also forgot to tell Aliyu that even the report, the link to the report is also on the website for the competition. And the prize, yes, there will be prize for first, second, I think best advocate and best, I think there are 4 categories. First, runner-up, best advocate. Let me not brand myself, but all those, there are at least 4 awards that is going to be given out. What other, whether there is a cap, we are hoping as many universities as possible participate. I think in Nigeria right now, there are probably about 50 to 70 law faculties, from the very new ones to the very old ones. We hope that all of them can register to participate.
I think we have more than that.
That are registered with the Council of Legal Education and been accredited. Well, we hope to have as many registered to participate. Professor Clark, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry, I did not know my microphone was on mute when you're talking.
No,
yeah,
it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. My next question is, obviously I know Professor Emese was talking about the BIOSA report, the Oil and Environmental Commission report, and I wanted to ask if that is going to form the basis for the trial, or are they going to be the participants going to be presented with a mock scenario for which, of course, they have to prepare to take part in the trial?
Okay. And let me ask Marilyn to also ask a question or make a comment. Then I also get Professor Emese to now also respond. Marilyn, can you unmute?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Mine is not a question. I just want to appreciate NULAI. By the way, I work with a clean technology hub. I am legal associate, and listening to everything everybody had to say, from Professor Ennis to Juku to Professor Teddy, Professor Emese, and everything that have been said. I just want to commend NULAI and all the partners. This is really new. And it's good because, listening to all this, I just had to think ways back in school. We didn't even think about, this subject. And it's really time for us to pay attention to important this. So from me, it's a thumbs up. I'm looking forward to the outcome. I mean, it's high time as legal professionals, the legal sector in general, pay attention to this subject, because of course the law is not static. There is more about it. So yes, so I just want to say well done, well done, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariam. We really appreciate that. Professor Emese.
Thank you. I think some of the questions that have been asked, particularly around how this links to the BIOSA report, but also I think to things about the diversity in the panel. I just want to share some of the slides perhaps that I would have talked about so that we see perhaps the scale of this. As I noted at the beginning, this initiative really comes out of what we believe is a really, really important aspect of the practice of law that we need to develop in Nigeria amongst our students. So I don't know if you can see my slide as to how that connects, and then the wider question. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Right. So if you look at the IWG, the main focus really is about how we change the narrative for divestment and ensure action for cleanup. So that is the starting point. Now, the members of the IWG, these are the members of the IWG. A number of us were part of the Bayelsa Oil Commission report. We're a member of the commission. So Dr. Catherine, Dr. Isaac, Professor Ngobo Emese, Professor Michael, and Professor Anna. And I'm sure most people also know Reverend Nemo Bassi, whom we co-opted into the IWG. And the focus of this was that that report, unlike most reports in Nigeria, was not going to just sit on the desk. So how this has come about is that the IWG has applied for funds, which we secured some, to try and implement the findings of that report. And we felt that intergenerational justice, intergenerational capacity development was a key part of what we need to do. So in thinking about that, therefore, our focus is that the Bayelsa report, which, as Odi said, is on the website that NULAI has created. But here there's also a QR code, if I'd shared this, that you can just take with your phone, and it will take you straight to the Bayelsa report. Now, what that report does is that it provides for us a framework for what the key issues are that we talk about when we talk about environmental justice, climate justice, and issues around just transition in the context of Nigeria. And the expectation is that, of course, NULAI is on the ground. NULAI has been involved in this. They have a lot of experience doing this. So NULAI taking this forward will ensure that some of the questions that are being asked around, like Odi has replied, around the logistics, around who is involved, will be a critical part of that. But what we are also doing is that, because while this is a moot in Nigeria, the issues are global. So the partners that we have and the members of the judge actually come from a very diverse audience. So they do not just come from Bayelsa, they do not just come from Nigeria, they come from across the board. What the critical thing is that we get people who work in this space, who have experience on these issues, and will give the students on the day a good account for how they go about that. And there's going to be processes, which again, we've walked through on how we ensure that there is consistency in that approach. So to that extent, I believe there will be diversity. We carry on building on the list of panelists and how we take that forward. In terms of the logistics, I just want to put my hands up that the amount that we were able to secure for this pilot is a little bit limited, but we'll try as best as we can to support for the final stages of this process, which are on the website that is being hosted by NULAI. Now, in terms of the question, why we link it to the Bayelsa report is that is the only way in which this competition was going to start anyways, in the sense that the IWG has used that as a propelling force to say part of the implementation of the report is that we have to get this next generation of lawyers working in these areas if we are going to ensure constitutional accountability for environmental and climate justice issues. However, the narrative that will be coming through will be like just any other moot trial. There will be a mock case that students will have to engage with, and all of that I think is also going to be ready once people indicate interest, and then the information will be sent to them. So it's not very different from any other moot, but because of the issues that are involved and how we've been able to set this up in the time that we have, and hopefully get the resources that we've been able to do it. And as I said, thankfully, NULAI has all the experience on the ground to help us ensure that this is implemented properly. I am very sure that whatever questions that we have can be answered, can be addressed. And with all your support, we're going to be able to deliver something that will meet with the expectations of all participants in this competition. I don't know if I've answered all of the questions, but I just wanted to show that this is actually quite a diverse group. It is not something that is only linked, because the report itself is submitted. But those are some of the data. The report itself is submitted. This is post the report, and how we ensure that the issues and the recommendations in that report live beyond the report itself, and how we mobilize the next generation to be part of that discourse. I don't know if I've answered the questions.
You have.
Yes, okay, thank you. I do not want to take more of our time. So we are going to come towards the end of this competition, and to do that, sorry, I need to share my screen. So I want to thank everybody that is here and have made their time available to join us for this event, though it's late in the day. And so I will together, let me share the screen. Together, where's my screen? Sorry. This is what happens when you have multiple screens.
Mrs. Lagi, just to draw your attention to a question in the Q&A.
Okay, there's question in Q&A.
Yes.
Okay, what's the question? Can you read it out?
So it says, good day, ma. Is the competition also open for final year students that may have graduated before March next year, which would be the semi-final and final?
I'm not sure I understand. When would they be graduating? Like December or something?
Possibly. So she says before March. So will it still be open? Possibly they might enter now as undergraduates, but are likely to graduate before the semi-final and final rounds of the competition. Blessing, the question is from Blessing Yaku. I don't know, let me see if she's still here so I can give her permission to talk, to clarify.
This is one of the conditions is that the person is a student. That's all that is required. This person is a student, current student.
Okay, Prof. Blessing.
Yes, good evening, ma. I can hear you, ma.
Good evening. Do you care to clarify your question so that...
Okay, ma. My question is, the competition requirement states that the participants must be undergraduate students. So I'm asking, what if they are current final year law students that they're students now, but they'll be graduating before the finals in March? So would it disqualify them, or would they still be able to participate? So I just wanted to get that clarification. So while preparing, we would know the students to present as our participants for the school.
I think Prof has answered it.
Already,
Yeah.
yes.
Undergraduates, really. So that is fair advantage to everybody. I don't know. I'm sharing my screen, so I'm not sure what we're seeing. Go to what are we seeing? Is it the website?
Yes, it's the website.
It's the website, right? Okay, thank you. So if we are in person, all of us will come out, I guess, and stand or something to open, officially declare this open. So on behalf of the International Working Group, and just clean up on behalf of Gender Inclusive Climate Change Governance, Dr. Pedi here, and on behalf of University of Bradford, on behalf of Aberystwyth University, and on behalf of HEDA, all of us together with Professor N-VSL, we can say that it is officially open now, the Environmental and Climate Litigation Moot Climate Impact Litigation Moot Competition. The maiden edition is officially open. So we encourage all the clinics, all the faculties to go to the link, and we also will send out a register now newsletter, but on the website, you have a link to register your indication of interest to participate. All resources will be made available, and all questions can be directed to the email that is also contact email at NULAI website. As we gather all the questions, we will provide frequently asked questions and answer on the website so that people will learn from other people's questions as well. So I will allow Professor Mese to also make a final comment, and Dr. Pedi before we close.
I think all that remains for me to say thank you on behalf of the International Working Group. Thanks for your support of this initiative, because if everyone didn't get on board, we wouldn't be able to move this forward. And I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to this, being rolled out and for schools to participate, universities to participate. So thank you, and looking forward to exciting times.
Thank you, Prof. Dr. Pedi, any final words?
I think I'll just say I adopt the submission of my learned senior, and really thanks to everyone, and looking forward to doing this with you all. Thank you.
And Professor Ernest Ojukwu, Senior Advocate, any final word for us as we close?
I just say everybody enjoy your day and your evening.
Okay. Thank you all, our panel of esteemed panel of judges. We are really appreciative of your time here and for joining us, and we look forward to working with you on this. I think December 4th is our onboarding meeting, and by then we'll have our criteria for our assessments, our resources, and everything will be front-loaded, and you can give us also critical feedback on that. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the evening. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.